What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel, or if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Today I will be sharing with you all my red-green Tyrannomon deck profile. This past weekend I played in the $1,000 PPG card game tournament. Was a lot of fun. With this deck I ended up placing 18th out of 90 to 100 people I believe it was. So it's a pretty good time. Ended up going 4 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws, so I had a really good time with this deck. There were some times where things went a little rough, or didn't really get the best draws, but I was still able to end up coming back in the end. I was able to win against some pretty tough matchups. I took down a red Omnimon deck, I believe, a green deck, and my very last matchup was against a blue Turbo Omnimon, who I was actually able to come back against in probably one of the most epic games I've played. So it was a really great time, and honestly I was just super impressed with this deck. Didn't expect to do as well as I did, but since I did, I thought I would share it with all of you all to see kind of my little differences to the Taranimon deck profile. I will say this deck is mostly based off of True Champion Steven's version of the green-red Tyrannomon deck. There were a few changes I made during it, and then at the end of the video I'm going to go over some possible adjustments I would make to a future version of this deck, just based off of some of the issues I ran into in the tournament, and some of the things I felt like didn't work the best. So starting off with the babies, we run 4 copies of the Digimon. Really awesome red level 2. Not really useful in a whole lot of decks at the moment, but really works well with our Taranimon deck, since most of that strategy revolves around giving our Taranimon piercing. So if you don't know his effect, during your turn while this Digimon has piercing, it gets an extra 2000 DP. Really awesome, helps give our Taranimon that extra bit of damage. They need to swing over blockers more often, and just a really awesome baby. This is the one we really want to see the majority of the time. For our 5th, we run a Yokomon. Not ideal, but still a useful effect for us. When you attack an opponent's Digimon, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for the turn. So still helps with our goal of letting our Taranimon run over and pierce through our opponent's Digimon, but not quite as good as the 2000 DP we get from the Digimon. Moving on to our rookies, we run 16 level 3s in this deck. Starting off, we have our Agumon. This is honestly the best level 3 we run in the deck. The Digimon we definitely want to see most often at the beginning of the game as we're digivolving up into our Taranimon. Just the flat during your turn, plus 1000 DP for the turn to your Digimon. Awesome effect. Again, same purpose, we're just trying to get our Taranimon to be as beefy as possible so they can swing over as many Digimon with piercing, so they can really dish out that damage and make sure to get through blockers with no trouble. Next up, we run our 3 copies of Gaiaforce. Similar thing, really just a slightly worse Agumon, but essentially during your turn, while there are 5 or more cards in your opponent's trash, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP. So later in the game, after the first few turns, it'll still be useful. It'll basically just be a second copy of Agumon, but at the start of the game, it's not as good just because you might not necessarily be getting that plus 1000 until your opponent has gotten a few cards in their trash. But still a good card. Overall, these are the 2 we prefer to see more often, just so we can buff up our Taranimon. Next up, we run 4 copies of our vanilla Monodramon. Nothing too exciting here, just obvious playing him because he's vanilla, 3000 DP, 2 costs to play. So awesome card, especially you're sitting at 1 memory. Obviously a lot of times with this deck, one of the things you're trying to do is give your opponent as little memory as possible, so it's always nice to be able to throw something cheap down and leave them at 1 memory, and more rookies are always good in this deck. Next rookie we played, not something you see too often, but the promo Biyomon. Ran 3 copies of this. Its effect, during your turn when this Digimon deletes one of your opponent's Digimon in battle and survives, trigger draw 1. Really good effect for just helping to get a little bit of extra draw power in this deck, especially since red doesn't really have a whole lot of card draw in its cards right now at the moment. And for our last card, we run 2 copies of the rare Agumon from Booster Set 1. On play, reveal 5 cards from the top of your deck, add 1 Tamer card among them to your hand, place the remaining cards in the bottom of your deck in any order. So the main goal of this deck, as you will see later, is we want to get Taiga on the field because he's the one who really busts our Taranimon, makes them into useful machines of destruction to plow through our opponent's cards. So if you don't see a Taiga, it can be kind of rough, slows you down a little bit. Not awful, not the worst thing, but definitely our goal is always to get at least one Taiga as quickly as possible. Having this Agumon just helps us search through your cards a little bit. Sometimes it's rough because you play them, you look through the 5 cards, and then there's just no Taiga. That's always unfortunate when that happens. It's a problem with a lot of search cards in this game right now, since there's not really anything at the moment that searches specific cards. You're kind of just digging through the top 3 to 5 cards of your deck, and then hoping you get something you can actually add to your hand with the effect. The nice thing though, that even when you don't end up actually seeing the Digimon or Tamer, in this case, that you want to see from the search, putting those 5 cards at the bottom of the deck does mean you are potentially getting closer to him. There were times in the tournament where I would play the Agumon, didn't see a Taiga, kind of sad I wasted resources on him, but then the next turn I would end up drawing into the Taiga. So in the end, it is still helping you get through those cards a little bit faster and making it through your deck so you can hopefully get to Taiga as quickly as you can. That finished things off for the rookies. Now moving on to our level 4s. We run, of course, 4 copies of our 4-cost 2 to Digivolve Red Tyrannomon with jamming. He is the one I prefer to see most often. Obviously, jamming, really nice effect. Attack security, you don't have to worry about any Digimon killing your people off. This is the Taranimon we usually want to try to get out on the field. Ideally, you have the Bidomon, you get an Automon out, and he's able to swing over most blockers, since most of the blockers in this game right now have 6,000 DP or less. Having Taranimon with both of those cards leaves him at 7,000, which is perfect. You swing at security. If your opponent wants to block, it doesn't even help because you're just going to take out that blocker and also inflict piercing on him. So really awesome card, specifically in this deck. Next up, we are of course also running 4 copies of our Dark Taranimon. Super awesome, cost efficient card. 1 cost to Digivolve into, really cheap, especially with Taiga and his cost reducing effects for Taranimon. Potentially even bring him out for free when you're Digivolving into him. 6 costs to play hard, a little steep, but 6,000 DP, pretty good. And again, the same thing between our Bidomon, our Agumon, our Gaiaforce, all the things we can buff them up with. We can get them at a pretty nice DP to be able to swing over most Digimon. And really, Dark Tarannomon is just nice to be able to swing over any of your opponent's rested Digimon and potentially take them out and clear an additional security with penetration, piercing. And last up, we run 4 copies of Quartermon because this is the Digimon card game and blockers are important. You always want at least 4 blockers in this deck. Ideally, you don't necessarily need to bring them out, but you always want to have them in your deck just in case. Not really a lot to say to them. Just a good card, all-around card to have. You always want at least a blocker in your deck. So these are the only 12 level 4s we run in this deck, and I'll come back to this later, but going forward, I think I would consider adding 1 or 2 more level 4s into this deck, just because there were times where I had a bunch of rookies ready to go, but nothing to actually Digivolve into, but I'll come back to that later. Moving on to our level 6s, we run a really small, light number of level 6s in our deck. Of course, the one we want to make sure we have are 4 copies of Metal Taranimon. Really awesome level 5, just 10,000 DP, great. 3 to Digivolve into, 7 to play from hand. 10,000 DP, especially with all the other buffs we can get to him if we're Digivolving up, is going to be awesome. In most cases, that's going to be able to check almost all of the Digimon your opponent's security, other than level 6s and level 7s, without having to worry about being destroyed. He's going to be able to swing over a ton of your opponent's Digimon. Just really nice threat to have on the board. Also, honestly, sometimes too, he's just good enough that if you don't have anything else to do with your deck, you can just plop him down. 7 memory is a lot to pay, but a lot of times he's going to be able to be a big enough threat to whatever your opponent has on the board that even with that extra memory you're giving him, he can still be useful to you and help make sure your board has at least 1 threat on it to keep your opponent on edge. And for our other level 5 that we run in the deck, just 2 copies of the Memory Borrower, Metal Greymon. just, you know, nice simple effect. Sometimes having that extra memory is really useful to extend your turns out a little bit, and because of how many big cards we have to play in this deck, just expensive cards, sometimes having that extra memory that you would give your opponent isn't even worth it. There were times where I have the Spinal Greymon out, swing, get that extra 3 memory, bring out the Digimon and either Terraforce something or throw down a level 6, and they're not even getting that extra level 3 anyway. Didn't play him all the time, but when he was in my hand, it never felt like it was a wasted card, and it was always a nice option to have. And 6 cost isn't the worst amount of memory to pay to just bring out an alternate. Sometimes I just played him straight to the field just to have that extra thing and know that my opponent, if he doesn't deal with him, is going to end up giving me some extra memory the next turn. Moving on to our level 6s, we run our 2 copies of Volcanic Dramon in the deck, because Rookie Rush and Swarm strategies, and it's always just Volcanic Dramon's a very useful level 6 to have, just in case your opponent is able to swarm the board with a lot of weaker Digimon. Just that on-play effect, delete all of your opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less, really good to have. This came in handy tons of times, especially actually in my very last game. This card ended up saving me and helping me win out in the last round when my opponent's Blue Omnimon deck had a bunch of smaller rookies out on the field that would have 100% ran over my board the next turn. And plus security attack +1, just really nice. So if you throw him out, your opponent either has to deal with him, or kind of just work around him, but that you're still leaving you with a threat on the board with 10,000 DP. Not the best, but not the worst either. And just the potential chance of them losing 2 extra security is always rough. So yeah, Volcanic Dramon, nice card to have. That is the only red level 6 we run in this deck. The others we run are our more tech cards. We have the 2 copies of Puppetmon and 1 copy of Magnetramon. These inclusions will probably be no surprise to anyone. Obviously, lots of people like to splash these 2 specific Digimon in their decks. Puppetmon I found to be the most useful when I was playing it. Really, that ability to just suspend one of your opponent's Digimon and keep their board suspended was really crucial in helping me set up and make those game-ending plays at times, or just protect myself while I rebuild my board. Plus, being able to get that extra memory when you attack. Puppetmon was just really nice. Usually I am more of a fan of Magnetramon. In my decks, I really like to splash him in almost everything I play, much to the annoyance of my opponents. But specifically in this deck, being able to recover that 2 security never felt like it was enough to save me, whereas Puppetmon, being a little bit more on the offensive side, usually felt like a better option. So you can experiment with the numbers on these, but definitely 2 Puppetmon was my preferred ratio. And then just a 1 Magnetramon, which to be honest, in the future I might change them out to a 3rd copy of Puppetmon. So those are our only level 6s. We're never really wanting to Digivolve into them. Potentially you could go into Volcanic Dramon from either a Metal Greymon or a Taranimon if for whatever reason that seemed useful in the situation, but our level 6s are mostly there just for their on-play effects. The deck's main focus is those level 3s and level 4s getting to all your level 4 Taranimon. The level 5s and higher are kind of just icing on the cake when you need them. Now moving on to our tamers and options, we of course run Taiga. For the tournament, ran 4 copies because honestly, just really good tamers for this deck specifically, of course. And we want to see him as often as possible, usually as soon as possible. I do think in the future I would probably cut him down to 3, since there were times where I had more than were really useful, or just would see him maybe early on in the game and then just end up wasting more draws drawing into more Taigas when I could have been going into something else that was more useful. But either way, if you don't know what he does, all of your Digimon with Tyrannomon in their names gain piercing. This is the reason this deck works. This is the reason Taiga exists, solely to work with Tyrannomon. So just really nice when you have piercing. Your Digimon, if it swings into another Digimon and kills it, you will be able to check that security card. Really nice, basically just makes it so blockers are essentially useless in your opponent's decks unless they have some really high power blockers like Black's War Greymon card. And then the second effect, when digivolving one of your Digimon into a Digimon card in your hand, with Taranimon in the name, you may suspend this tamer to reduce the memory cost of the Digivolution by 1. So really nice if you're Digivolving into a Dark Taranimon, you have 1 Taiga, boom, that's free now, as long as it's not in the raising area, it has to be on the battle area. And if you have 2, you could potentially Digivolve into the Jamming Taranimon for free. If you ever have 3 and you have a Metal Taranimon, that's just a free Digivolution. You can stack them onto 1 card, split them between multiple Digivolutions. It's just really nice to be able to make your Taranimon free, and also nice to be able to kind of manipulate your memory cost at times to help make sure you can bring out these evolutions while leaving your opponent with as little memory as possible, preferably 1 if you get the chance and if you have enough Taiga. For our options, we run the 3 copies of Flower Cannon. This is honestly one of the nicest benefits of running the green Taiga in this deck. It just means we can play this card from our hand and run it in this deck without it being completely useless unless it's in security. Really nice effect, obviously, when you play it from your hand, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. That can be really good for comboing with your Taranimon. If your opponent has a weaker Digimon on the field, you can pay that 2 memory, suspend them, and then force your Taranimon into attacking them unless they have a blocker, helping you destroy their board while also still getting that security check from the penetration, piercing. And of course, its security effect, one of the most overpowered security effects in the game. Suspend all of your opponent's Digimon without blocker. Really nice. Definitely can come in clutch if it's late game, your opponent has a ton of Digimon, just instantly halting all of their attacks. Definitely came in useful during the tournament, just a solid card to have. And so our last option card, the 4 copies of Gaiaforce, the best removal in the game. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon, same thing for security. Again, another awesome card if you have insecurity, really helps with dealing with those big threats, especially if your opponent happens to be running something like Omnimon, swings into Gaiaforce, wipe them out, really great. And then again, still a useful card to have in the hand. 8 is expensive, but never really felt like it was too much of an issue to have to pay the 8 if it felt really crucial to get rid of something on my opponent's board. Now, the few alterations I would make to my deck. Again, like mentioned earlier, 4 copies of Taiga at times felt a little bit excessive. I think I would more than likely cut it to 3 in the future. I think 2 might be a little bit too risky to just have 2 in the deck and hope you see them. 3 seems like a fair number. With that that 4th spot open, I think I would maybe add another level 4 in this deck. There were a lot of times where I just had the worst dead hands, where even if I had rookies, I just had nothing to digivolve them into, kind of forcing me to make other plays that were unfortunate, or just also losing that opportunity to draw cards by digivolving into our level 4s. Obviously, you want to digivolve into your Taranimons, but there were times where I just wish I at least had anything I could digivolve into. With that extra copy of Taiga, I think I would probably run something like a Greymon maybe. Really, I think either of the red Greymon we currently have would be fine. Either the one to get the extra 2000 DP, that could honestly be nice on the Metal Taranimon, just let them swing a little bit harder, keep up with even the majority of level 6s, or the security attack +1. That way, even if he has piercing and you're able to swing over something with that Metal Taranimon, now you're getting that extra security check. I would probably personally prefer the security attack +1 Greymon, but if you don't have him, this other one could be a solid option too. Plus he's a little bit cheaper to play straight from your hand. Now moving on to the rookies, there are also a couple changes I would probably make here. Again, while this Biomon has a really nice effect, being able to draw more cards is always useful and nice in any card game. There were times where I just felt like this really wasn't as useful as having something else, or it was just not really a reliable way of getting cards, and I kind of just wished I had a different card instead. So honestly, I might cut this out in future versions, or at least reduce it. Something I would probably do is maybe just throw in a 4th copy of the Gaiaforce instead. Let's take one of these out, get that 4th Gaiaforce just to have that extra attack boost in there at times. Another thing I would consider is maybe subbing him out for one of the other Biomon. I would probably take one out, sub it in with the Gaiaforce, and then maybe for the other two play the vanilla 2-cost Biomon, just to have more cheap cards to play if I'm ever trying to leave my opponent at 1 memory and just really focus on those memory efficient turns. And if not that, I might even consider running the other version of Biomon. This one is only 2000 attack, but its inheritable effect, which is the main reason I like it, during your turn when this Digimon is blocked, it gets plus 2000 DP. Usually your opponent isn't trying to block you because they know your Taranimon are just going to pierce them anyway, but there are times where a little bit of extra DP would have really been useful, specifically against black decks. I did play a black deck, and there were times where it was just a little frustrating since black does have those stronger blockers like Andromon and Gardramon with that 7000 DP. I think in those times, if I had had this Biomon, it would have been a really valuable card to just give myself a little bit more of an attack boost, especially if they were running something like the Black Tie, which gives their blockers more DP on their turn. So yeah, I think in the future I would probably cut out the 3 versions of the promo Biomon for a 4th Gaiaforce in either 2 copies of the vanilla Biomon or 2 copies of the blocker Biomon with the blocker inherited effect. And then last thing were the level 6s. 5 level 6s felt like a good amount for me in the deck. Again, the only one I would maybe change out is the Magnadramon, either to go in for another Volcanic Dramon, or probably in my opinion a 3rd Puppetmon, since 2 Volcanic Dramon usually seemed like enough for me, and usually the Taranimons don't have much of a problem with sitting out your opponent's board since, you know, between Flower Cannon and Piercing, it's pretty easy to get through them while also taking out your opponent's security. So that's the only thing I would change here. Extra Puppetmon, extra Volcanic Dramon, whichever you would prefer in your deck. Or maybe even subbing it out for either an extra level 4 or an extra level 3. But again, to me, 5 level 5 seemed like a good amount. And that is the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed checking out my deck. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I do think I'm going to try taking this into another tournament when I get the chance with the few changes I mentioned earlier. Honestly, it was just a really fun deck to play, and it was really neat to play something a little bit more unique to what the majority of people are playing out there. It's a nice, cheaper option. Most of these cards are common or rare and a lot easier to get. And yeah, it was just really fun. Piercing is a really neat mechanic to work with, and it's just a nice, interesting deck to play. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate if you left a like. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to subscribe if you are down and ready for more Digimon content in the upcoming months. Only a few weeks left until the official US release. I plan on uploading some footage from my tournament games with this deck sometime soon, and I will hopefully see you in the next video.